August 1977. Enfield, London. A frantic 999 call is placed to the police by a terrified mother. She claimed her furniture was moving on its own. A police constable, Caroline Heaps, was the first to arrive. She was a skeptic until she herself witnessed a large, heavy armchair lift and slide 4 feet across the floor. She later signed a sworn affidavit. This was the beginning. For 18 months, this house became the site of one of the most terrifying and documented hauntings in history. A case with over 30 witnesses, photographs, and a demonic voice captured on tape. Tonight, we unseal the file on the Enfield Poltergeist. The house at 284 Green Street was home to Peggy Hodgson, a single mother, and her 4 children. The activity began with her 2 daughters, Janet and Margaret. It started simply. The girls complained their beds were wobbling. Peggy told them to stop messing around and go to sleep. Then, she heard it too. A loud, shuffling sound from their room. She went in. The girls were terrified. Then, she heard it. 4 loud knocks from inside the bedroom wall. Peggy pushed a heavy chest of drawers against the wall. As she watched, it slid 18 inches back toward the door. She tried to push it back. It wouldn't budge. An invisible force was pushing against her. Terrified, she grabbed her children and ran to the neighbor's house. The neighbors, Vic and Peggy Nottingham, came over. They, too, heard the knocks. Vic said it was like someone was shuffling in slippers, but there was no one there. That is when the police were called. And that is when WPC Caroline Heaps watched the armchair slide across the floor. The police left, telling the family, "We can't help you. This is not a police matter." Desperate, the family called the media. The story reached the Society for Psychical Research and an investigator named Maurice Grass. Grass was the perfect investigator. He was patient. He was kind. He was also grieving. His own daughter had recently died in a tragic accident. He wanted to believe in an afterlife. He moved into the house, and the activity exploded. Lego bricks and marbles would fly across the room. Grass would pick them up, and they were hot to the touch. Matches would spontaneously light, bursting into flames. But the activity always centered on 11-year-old Janet, and then Janet began to speak, but it wasn't her voice. It was a deep, guttural, old man's voice coming from an 11-year-old girl. The voice spoke for hours. It claimed it was the ghost of a man named Bill Wilkins. "Just before I died, I went blind. I had a hemorrhage, and I fell asleep, and I died in the chair in the corner downstairs." This was a testable claim. Maurice Grass went to the local records office. He found a man named Bill Wilkins who had lived in that house, and who had died of a cerebral hemorrhage in a chair in the living room, just as the voice had claimed. The activity reached its peak. A photographer from the Daily Mirror captured this. The infamous photos of Janet being thrown or levitating from her bed. Are these photos proof of a violent, demonic force? Or is it just a girl jumping? The Enfield Poltergeist is not a simple story, because the girls were caught faking. Investigators, on several occasions, caught Janet and Margaret bending spoons, banging on walls with broom handles, and hiding tape recorders. When confronted, Janet's excuse was bizarre. She admitted that sometimes they faked it. She said maybe 2% was faked. Why? To see if Mr. Grass would catch us, to see if he was a real investigator. The case also attracted Ed and Lorraine Warren. They, unlike Grass, immediately declared the case a demonic possession. Their involvement made the case more famous, but also more controversial. As many investigators felt they were sensationalizing the events, the paranormal community was split. Grass believed the case was 98% real. Other investigators claimed the entire thing was an elaborate hoax by 2 bored, intelligent, troubled little girls. So, what was it? How do you explain the police officer? WPC Heaps, a trained, sober observer, who signed an affidavit that she saw the chair slide. How do you explain the voice? An 11-year-old girl, speaking in a deep, guttural growl, with knowledge of a man's death that she could not have known. And how do you balance that with the fact that the girls were caught cheating? Was it a real poltergeist that a bored child sometimes helped along? Or was it the greatest and cruelest hoax ever played on a grieving investigator? The file on 284 Green Street remains a perfect, disturbing paradox. And it remains unsealed. We post new investigations every single day. Subscribe to Dark Files Unsealed. The Dark Files are waiting.